God's chosen one. Stop scrolling. Heaven has paused everything around you just to say this. You were meant to see this. You didn't find this video. This video found you. You are not here by chance, by accident, or by algorithm. No, this moment was written before time began. You are not like the rest. You were never meant to blend in. You are not overlooked. You are set apart. Listen closely. There is something different about you. Something that cannot be explained, only discerned. And for too long, you've walked around like a stranger in this world. Misunderstood. Dismissed. Quietly carrying a weight you couldn't name. But now it's time to understand why. It's time to wake up. You are not random. You are marked. Even in your lowest moments, heaven was watching. Every time you wanted to give up, every tear you wiped alone, God was still speaking over you. That one is mine. The pain you've felt, it wasn't pointless. The confusion you've endured, it wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Every detour, every delay, every broken place, it was all building something eternal in you. This is not entertainment. This is a divine interruption. There's a reason you felt out of place. You were never meant to blend in because you were sent to stand out. You're not just another face in the crowd. You are chosen, handpicked by heaven. It is written in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. You're tired, but you're not finished. You're worn, but you're not empty. And deep down, something inside you knows this is a wake-up call. The enemy tried to break you early because he saw what you carry. He recognized it before you did. And that's why you've faced the warfare you have. The rejection, the heartbreak, the patterns, the silence. It wasn't coincidence. It was spiritual strategy, because hell doesn't fight what it doesn't fear. But what the enemy failed to realize is that you're still here. That even with all the setbacks, all the battles, all the nights you thought you wouldn't survive, you're still standing. And not just standing, you're being summoned. Because the time is now. Heaven is activating something in you. A fire, a roar, a strength that was buried under disappointment and disguised by delay. But it's coming alive. Even now, as you hear these words, something inside you is rising. You can feel it. Can't you? That stirring, that pull, that sense that this is not just another video. This is a divine moment. What you're feeling is real. It's God, and He's calling your name. You've questioned your worth. You've doubted your value. You've wondered if you missed it. But God sent this message to tell you, you haven't missed anything. If you were truly forgotten, you wouldn't even be hearing this. If you were truly done, the enemy wouldn't still be trying to silence you. But the very fact that you're still breathing means your mission is not over, not even close. So now, chosen one, it's your turn to rise, your turn to step out of the shadows, your turn to remember who you are and whose you are. This is not just another season, it is an awakening. You're not the only one feeling it. All over the world, God is calling out to His remnant, the ones who've been hidden, wounded, overlooked, but never abandoned. The ones who are ready to stop pretending, stop shrinking, and finally become what they were born to be. Warriors of light, disruptors of darkness, chosen ones. So, don't waste this moment. Don't dismiss this as coincidence. This is your signal. This is your confirmation. This is your call. If your spirit is bearing witness right now, if you feel this word resonating deep in your bones, respond in faith. Speak life over your calling. Break the silence the enemy has tried to keep you in. Type the number 777 in the comments. Not because it's magic, but because it's a prophetic act. It means completion, perfection, spiritual alignment. It's how you say to heaven, I hear you. I receive it. I'm ready. Oh, and if this stirred you, if this hit a place you haven't talked about, don't keep it to yourself. Share this message. Like it. Comment. Subscribe. Let this word echo into someone else's spirit too. Because the same way this message found you, it may be the rescue someone else is praying for right now. Before the world gave you a name, before your first breath, before any pain touched your life, you were already marked. You were already seen, known, chosen. In a realm far beyond time, heaven whispered your identity into the fabric of eternity. You were not made by chance. You were not formed in error. You are not a product of randomness or a mistake of broken people. You are God's intention in motion. From the womb, something was different about you, before you even had words. Something about your presence carried weight. Maybe you didn't understand it. Maybe you still don't. But you've always been watched. Not just by people, but by realms. The light inside you has drawn attention from both heaven and darkness, because light doesn't go unnoticed. You see, the anointing didn't come the day you found faith. The calling wasn't born when you got serious about prayer. The choosing happened before your birth. And because of that, your journey was never going to look like anyone else's. You weren't allowed to blend in. You were wired to be set apart. While others coasted, you wrestled. While others lived easy, you carried weight. It wasn't because you were cursed. It was because you were called. There is a loneliness that only the chosen understand. The kind that shows up in crowded rooms. The kind that sits with you even when you're surrounded. And you've felt that, haven't you? That deep knowing that you don't quite belong. That something about you doesn't match the world you were born into. It's not because you're broken. It's because you're born of something greater. The call on your life has always provoked resistance, not just from people, but from the unseen realm. And maybe no one told you that. Maybe they made you think that being chosen meant constant peace, easy blessings, and favor without fight. But that's not how it works. Because being chosen means you are a threat, and threats are watched. Threats are opposed. Threats are targeted. You didn't fit in because God didn't let you. He didn't allow your roots to go deep in places He would one day call you out of. Every time you tried to conform, He disrupted it. Every time you tried to settle, something crumbled. Not because you were rejected, but because you were being protected from settling below your calling. And yes, it's been hard. Yes, there have been moments when you wanted to trade the call for comfort. But deep down, something always pulled you back. A restlessness, a burning, a whisper that refused to be silenced. You've tried to bury it under routine. You've tried to outrun it with distractions, but it never left. Did it? Because when you are chosen, you cannot unhear the whisper of destiny. Even when you walked away, grace followed. Even when you fell, mercy reached. Even when you lost your way, heaven never lost sight of you. Others may have looked at your struggles and seen failure, but God saw formation. Others may have seen rebellion, but God saw someone wrestling for truth, for identity, for clarity in the chaos. And all this time, heaven has waited patiently, not for you to be perfect, but for you to wake up, to remember, to return, to reclaim your crown. Do you see it now? The threads of divine intention that have been running through your life all along. The near misses, the silent moments, the way certain doors refused to open no matter how much you begged. That wasn't punishment. That was preservation. You were being kept for something holy. You weren't meant to live numb. You weren't meant to stay small. You weren't created to simply survive. You were chosen to shake nations, to speak truth, to carry glory, to light up dark places. That is why your life has been different. That is why the warfare has been intense. Because something in you, something God placed inside you, carries weight in the spirit realm. And the time for silence is over. The time for hiding is over. Not because you are ready, but because you are chosen. Scripture says in the book of Psalm, chapter 139, verse 16, "Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are exactly where you need to be for what's about to unfold. You've always felt the difference, haven't you? Even before you could name it. It was there. A divine tension, a spiritual misfit feeling, like your soul was always meant to belong somewhere higher. You walked through life sensing things others didn't, carrying burdens no one else could see, seeing through smiles, feeling invisible pain in others, and hearing the quiet voice of conviction even in the middle of noise. People misunderstood you. Some envied you. Others rejected you. But heaven has always known exactly who you are. You were never ordinary. And that difference, that feeling of never fully belonging in the world, it's not rejection. It's revelation. God was revealing early that you were not here to blend in. You are here to break through. You were marked to stand out. Not for your own glory, but for the glory of the one who sent you. That's why the attacks have been relentless. The enemy doesn't waste energy. He doesn't bother those who pose no threat. But you, the moment you were born, the battle began. Because in the realm of the Spirit, you were never just a child. You were a weapon, a messenger, a living declaration that darkness cannot win. Your light has been terrifying hell since the beginning. And so, the attacks weren't just personal, they were prophetic. That depression wasn't random. That betrayal wasn't meaningless. That trauma wasn't just pain, it was positioning. Every fire you walked through refined something sacred. Every scar you carry is now a seal, a sign that you've survived what tried to destroy you. You weren't meant to walk an easy path. You were meant to walk a holy one. So many times, you wanted to quit. And you know what? You could have. And maybe you even tried. But something kept pulling you back. Back to truth. Back to purpose. Back to the flame. Because when you are chosen, heaven won't let you disappear. Even in silence, God was speaking. Even in confusion, He was guiding. Even in rebellion, He was reaching. Because this is deeper than religion. This is covenant. And God doesn't cancel what He has covenanted. Your name has been spoken in heaven's courts. Your voice has been heard in divine conversations. There are angels assigned to your life not because you're perfect, but because you're purposed. And now, the time has come to remember, to rise, to return, to say yes again. Even now, as you listen, you feel that stirring, not in your head, not in your emotions, but in your spirit. A confirmation that this isn't just good content, it's a divine message. This is heaven calling your name. You've been running long enough, hiding long enough, settling long enough. The world tried to numb you, but the voice of God is louder than the noise. You're not forgotten. You're not too far. And you're not too late. You're chosen. And this is your moment. Type this in the comments. I'm still here. Lo, say it boldly. Speak it as a declaration, as warfare, as truth. Because the fact that you are still here after everything is not normal. It's miraculous. It's prophetic. It means the enemy's plan failed. It means you still have purpose. It means God isn't finished. When you comment, I'm still here, you're not just responding to a video, you're making a spiritual announcement. You're saying, the enemy tried, but I'm still standing. You're saying, hell threw its worst, and I survived. You're saying, I may be wounded, but I am willing. Don't let your silence be your story. Let your voice rise. Let heaven and hell hear it. Because your presence in this moment is a sign that God's chosen ones are waking up, one by one, voice by voice, flame by flame. And what's coming next will not be quiet. It will not be comfortable. It will not be hidden. It will be bold. It will be holy. It will be you, walking in your true identity. So, rise. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait to feel worthy. Just say it. I'm still here. And everything God promised over your life, it's not dead. It's waiting. It is written in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 8. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair. And you are not crushed. You are not finished. You are proof that grace still speaks. You are proof that mercy still moves. You are proof that chosen ones don't die in darkness, they rise in it. So rise and speak. I'm still here. Oh, you've been carrying more than most can see, more than most will ever understand. Because when you're chosen, much of your pain goes unseen. Much of your battle is fought in silence, smiling on the outside while your spirit wrestles with invisible weights, showing up for others while secretly wondering who will show up for you. You've learned to function through pain. You've learned to lead while bleeding, to encourage while empty, to intercede while being the one most in need. This is the life of a chosen one. You've walked through seasons where it felt like God was silent, where the heavens felt shut and your prayers returned with no echo. Not because God was gone, but because He was forming something deeper in you than answers. He was forming endurance, teaching you how to stand, not just when the blessings flow, but when the heavens feel like brass, teaching you how to hear Him in stillness, how to trust Him in shadows, how to keep walking even when the next step isn't visible. Because what you carry can't be cheap. It can't be shallow. It can't be rushed. God has been digging wells inside you, deep wells, deeper than your understanding, deeper than your feelings, deeper than your past. That's why the process has been painful, because the greater the weight of glory, the deeper the foundation must go. You've been through betrayals that should have broken you, losses that could have destroyed you. You've had to grieve in private what others celebrated in public. And yet, through it all, you kept your heart soft. You didn't let bitterness make a home in you. And that alone is a miracle. Because the enemy didn't just want to wound you, he wanted to harden you, to turn your heart cold, to convince you that isolation is safer than obedience, that silence is better than vulnerability, that detachment is wisdom. But you never fully gave in, even when numbness crept in, even when the weight felt unbearable. You still held on to hope, sometimes by a thread, but always enough. Do you know what that means? It means the oil on your life is real. Because oil is not produced in comfort, it's crushed out of pressure. Anointing doesn't come from applause. It comes from agony. And you, beloved, have been crushed in hidden places, in rooms where no one saw the tears, in nights where only God knew you were barely holding on. And yet that crushing has produced something sacred, a fragrance in your worship that no performance can mimic, a purity in your prayers that no platform can fake, a depth in your discernment that no training could ever teach. You didn't just survive, you grew. You've been gaining wisdom through warfare, patience through pain, clarity through chaos. You may not have seen it, but heaven did. Every time you forgave instead of retaliating, every time you chose obedience over opportunity, every time you laid your will down, again and again. Even when you didn't understand the why, that was worship. That was warfare. That was transformation. And now, it's starting to make sense. Isn't it? Why you couldn't go the same way as everyone else. Why the shortcuts never worked for you. Why sin never sat comfortably in your soul. Why compromise always left a bitter aftertaste. You were never wired for normal. You were never built for average. You were born to carry weight, spiritual weight, prophetic weight, kingdom weight. That's why you couldn't stay where others stayed. That's why you had to leave behind what others could tolerate. Because what you carry demands separation. Not because you're better, but because you're called to something higher. And yes, it's cost you. It's cost you comfort. It's cost you relationships. It's cost you reputation. But God has been keeping record. Not one tear has gone unnoticed. Not one sacrifice has been forgotten. Not one lonely night has been wasted. Because God is not unjust. He does not forget the labor of love. He does not overlook obedience. He does not abandon the crushed. He crowns them. It is written in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 18, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. You have not been suffering for nothing. The glory will outweigh the pain. The purpose will eclipse the process. The weight of what's coming will silence every doubt about what you endured. So don't despise the crushing. Don't curse the pressing. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Every tear is oil. Every sacrifice is seed. And every surrender is shaping the vessel that will carry something this world cannot manufacture, the presence of the living God. And that, chosen one, is why the weight has been so heavy. Because what you carry is holy. Hell watched you grow. From the moment your life began, the enemy saw the fingerprints of God all over you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were dangerous to darkness Before you could even walk, you were being observed by spiritual forces that knew this one is going to shake atmospheres. You didn't ask to be a target, but the oil on your life made you one, and so the attacks came early. Your childhood wasn't ordinary. The pain started before you could understand it. You went through things others didn't survive. You cried yourself to sleep with questions your young heart had no words for, and still you woke up. Again and again. You kept going, kept showing up, kept breathing when breathing felt like a battle, because deep down, something in you refused to die. Chosen one. Even when you didn't know who you were. Hell did. That's why it tried to break your identity early. That's why shame tried to wrap itself around you like a cloak. That's why the voices came telling you that you weren't enough, that you were too broken, too far gone. But none of it was true. Every lie was targeted. Every voice of condemnation was calculated. Because if the enemy couldn't stop your existence, he would try to confuse your purpose. But God never stopped speaking. Even in the chaos, even in the silence. He was there, whispering identity over you, holding your heart in moments where you thought no one cared. You may have felt alone, but you were never abandoned. There's a reason you've always bounced back, a reason your faith has endured. It's not because you're just resilient, it's because you're chosen, and chosen ones don't fall like others fall. Chosen ones get back up. Chosen ones carry fire in their bones. Think about it. How many times did the enemy have a chance to take you out? How many nights did you lie awake, unsure how you'd make it through the next day? And yet you're still here. Not just breathing, not just surviving. You are becoming. Every time you got back up, you were proving something. That grace is stronger than the grave. That mercy outruns mistakes. That purpose cannot be erased by pain. And now, all of hell's attention has shifted. Because you're not just surviving anymore, you're waking up. You're realizing that your scars were never just about pain. They are signs of purpose. Proof that you carry something darkness cannot destroy. The attacks weren't the end. They were the beginning. There's a holy boldness rising inside you now. Isn't there? Not arrogance, not hype, but a quiet strength, a knowing, a flame, a steady fire that says, I've been through too much not to walk in what God called me to. And that fire is what hell fears most. Not your gifts, not your knowledge, but your yes, your obedience, your willingness to rise again and become the weapon God designed you to be. And hear this, you're not alone in this. There is a remnant all over the earth. People just like you, wounded, weeping, waiting, who are waking up too. The chosen ones, the marked ones, the ones who were overlooked in one season but will carry fire in the next. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are early. And that's what leaders are, those who awaken before others do. Let this message remind you that your life has never been random, that all the warfare, all the tears, all the moments you thought God had forgotten you, He was actually getting ready to launch you. The time for shrinking back is over. The time for questioning your worth is over. You are not behind. You are not too broken. You are right on time. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17, no weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. The weapons were formed, but they didn't win. The attacks came, but they didn't finish you. Why? Because God is not done. and he never loses what belongs to him. If this word stirred something deep in your spirit, if something in you knows this message was for you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Someone else needs to hear it. Like it, so it keeps showing up for those who are crying out silently for confirmation. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Not for numbers, not for vanity, but so you never miss what heaven wants to whisper next. Because this is just the beginning, and the journey you're stepping into now, it will change everything. You're not just seen, you're not just known, you are dangerous to darkness, and nothing will stop what God has started in you. You've mistaken the waiting for rejection, the silence for abandonment, the delay for denial. But heaven wants to tell you something. Chosen one, you have not been denied, only prepared. God was never late. He was hiding you. You see, the world praises quick success. Culture chases instant results. But what's divine cannot be rushed. What's anointed must be processed. And you, chosen one, have been in the fire not because God forgot you, but because He's been forming you. You've been in a prophetic delay. The kind of delay that builds roots deeper than the surface. The kind of delay that doesn't just change your situation, it changes your spirit. Because what's coming can't be carried by the version of you that was impatient, broken, or bitter. God is too faithful to give you a future you're not ready for. So He slowed it down. He held the door, not because you were denied, but because He loves you too much to let you walk unprepared. And now, the pressure you've felt, that internal tension, that quiet ache in your soul that keeps whispering, "There's more," that's the sign. The delay is about to break. What looked like silence was really set up. What looked like rejection was redirection. What looked like the end was only the beginning in disguise. You haven't been wasting time, you've been gaining wisdom, and it shows. Look back at who you were 1 year ago. Look at the things that used to shake you, but no longer do. Look at how you pray now, how you see now, how you discern now. You've grown, you've matured, and no, you're not perfect, but you're prepared in ways you weren't before. Because delay has a way of detoxing the soul. It strips away false identities. It confronts pride. It kills comparison. It forces you to see God, not just in the open doors, but in the closed ones too. That's why some doors had to stay shut. Not because you weren't good enough, but because they weren't God enough. Some relationships had to fall apart, not because of failure, but because of favor. Some paths had to go dark, not because you were lost, but because God was leading you away from less. The detour has always been divine. And now, as you read this, something in your spirit is confirming what your soul already sensed. It's almost time. Not for hype, not for temporary success, but for release. The kind of release that heaven schedules. The kind that comes with authority, not just opportunity. The kind that can't be stolen, copied, or fabricated. And chosen one, you're closer than you think. So don't misread this season. Don't curse what's actually been a cocoon. Because when God delays, it's not punishment, it's protection. He holds things back until they align with His glory. It is written in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." And heaven's timeline is different, but it is never wrong. And your timeline? It's being activated even now. Your name is being spoken in rooms you haven't entered. Your spirit is being prepared for platforms you haven't seen. Your obedience is unlocking oil you haven't imagined. The delay was not a pause. It was a deep inhale before a divine release. So, let go of the panic. Let go of the fear. Let go of the lies that say, you're too late or too far gone. You are right on schedule for what God ordained. And when He opens it, no man, no demon, no lie will be able to shut it. Right now, as a prophetic act of alignment, type the number 444 inch, the comments, not as superstition, but as confirmation. 444 represents open doors, angelic protection, and divine alignment. It is heaven's way of saying, the path is opening, stay ready. And by commenting it, you are declaring, I am in divine alignment. I am not late. I am exactly where God wants me. Olu, let your words partner with what heaven is doing. Because when alignment meets obedience, acceleration begins. You didn't miss it. You didn't mess it up. And no matter what they said about you, no matter who left you, no matter how long it's taken, if God started it, He will finish it. So, breathe, rest, and prepare. Because prophetic delay is not delay forever. And what's about to break open in your life will make every hidden season worth it. You're not behind. You're just next. Being chosen doesn't always feel holy. Sometimes, it feels like being forgotten. It feels like carrying a weight that no one else seems to notice. It feels like being faithful and still facing doors that won't open. It feels like praying hard and waiting longer. It feels like giving your all while watching others less sincere, less committed walk into everything you thought would be yours by now. And in those moments, it's easy to question it all, to wonder if you misheard God, to wonder if you're truly called, or if you've just been deceiving yourself with hope. But listen closely. Chosen one, this calling was never about comfort. It was about consecration. To be chosen means to be set apart, not just for favor, but for fire. And fire is never comfortable. Fire is refining. Fire is consuming. Fire takes what is common and burns away everything that doesn't belong. And that's what God has been doing in you. You've been walking through a refining season, not because you failed, but because you've been trusted with something heavy, something holy, something not everyone can carry. You were never called to easy roads. You were built for the path that others avoid, the narrow one, the costly one, the path that calls for obedience when no one is watching and worship when there's no music. The path that asks you to forgive what still hurts, to bless those who betrayed, to stay soft in a hard world. And somehow, you've done it, quietly, obediently, with tears in your eyes and fire in your bones. That's what it means to be chosen. It means God trusted you with a cross that would break others. He trusted you with silence, with stretching, with delay, not to punish, but to prepare you for weight. There are people who carry platforms, but then there are people who carry presence, people who have authority in rooms, not because of charisma, but because they've been crushed in secret, people who speak. And chains break, not because of their volume, but because of their depth. That's who you're becoming. Because you've stayed. You stayed when it was hard. You stayed when you wanted to disappear. You stayed when leaving would have been easier. and in heaven's eyes, that counts. You didn't give up. You didn't trade purpose for comfort. You didn't sell your soul for applause. You kept showing up, and every time you did, heaven wrote it down. Not one act of obedience has been wasted. Not one tear, not one unseen. Yes, the world may not see it, but God does, and He is not unjust. It is written in the book of Hebrews, chapter 6, verse 10, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown Him as you have helped His people and continue to help them. No, you have not labored in vain. Your pain has not been empty. Every moment in the shadows, every silent battle, every lonely night, it was all sacred training. You carry weight now, not just emotional weight, but spiritual authority, and that's why the warfare increased. That's why the pressure intensified, because the enemy recognized what was forming in you. He saw your prayers get deeper, your worship grow louder, your discernment sharpen. He saw your name being whispered in heaven, and that scared him, because when someone like you wakes up, everything changes. You aren't here to play a role, you're here to break cycles. You're not just meant to attend revival, you're meant to host it. You're not just marked for greatness, you're marked for impact, for authority, for territory. And yes, that will cost you. It'll cost you the right to be understood, the comfort of being liked, the ease of blending in. But what you gain, it's worth everything. You gain clarity. You gain strength. You gain heaven's trust. That's what's been happening all this time. God wasn't hiding from you. He was hiding you, preserving you, setting you apart. Because what's on your life isn't ordinary. You were never meant to be part of the crowd. You were born to lead one. That's why the pressure won't stop. That's why the calling won't lift. That's why, even when you tried to walk away, you couldn't. Because what God planted in you cannot be killed. It can only be resisted. And even that resistance is running out of time. The version of you who thought about giving up, they're gone. What's rising now is refined, resilient, and ready. So walk forward, not because you have all the answers, but because you finally know who you are. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not abandoned. You are called, refined, and set apart. This is not entertainment. This is not just content. This is an emergency broadcast from heaven to your spirit. Because something in you is stirring. Not anxiety, not confusion, but divine urgency. The kind of urgency that makes you restless in routine, that wakes you up in the middle of the night with no words. Just a weight in your chest that something bigger is calling. That disconnects you from conversations that used to feel normal. That makes you crave silence, not to escape, but to listen, because heaven is speaking, not in the loud, not in the lightning, but in the whisper, in the still, small voice that your spirit has started to tune into again. And maybe it's been a while. Maybe you silenced that voice for a season because life got too loud or the pain got too deep. But now it's coming back, stronger, clearer, unshakable. You're starting to remember. You're starting to return. This isn't about hype. This isn't about being famous in the eyes of man. It's about being faithful in the eyes of God. Because He's not looking for the most talented. He's not impressed by titles, status, or reach. He's looking for the ones who will say, yes. The ones who will hear the whisper and move. Who will follow the cloud when it shifts. even when no one else sees it moving. And you've been chosen for that kind of obedience, the kind that moves quietly but shakes nations, the kind that says yes without needing all the answers, the kind that builds when no one's watching, that prays when nothing's changing, that shows up when it would be easier to disappear. There's something powerful about those who don't wait to be seen, to become dangerous to the enemy. That's you. You've been fighting battles no one saw. You've been healing in places where no one clapped for your progress. You've been protecting peace without recognition. And God saw every moment of it. He saw the self-control when you wanted to lash out. He saw the grace when you wanted revenge. He saw the discipline when temptation came quietly in disguise. And it all counted. That obedience in secret, it's building something unshakable. That hunger for more, even when you couldn't explain it. That's the Spirit drawing you deeper. That conviction in your gut that made you walk away from what looked good but wasn't God. That was heaven interrupting your steps. This is not a normal season. This is a spiritual pivot point. Everything in the natural looks like nothing is happening, but everything in the Spirit says otherwise. You can feel it. You're not who you used to be. Your appetite is changing. The people you once ran with don't feel the same. The entertainment that used to distract you now leaves you dry. The patterns that used to numb the pain now feel off. You are in transition. And transitions are messy. They come with grief. They require shedding. They test your resolve. They make you choose who you're becoming over who you've been. But that's where the chosen rise. In the in-between, in the pressure, in the wrestle, God does not anoint the polished. He anoints the willing, and He has found you willing, broken, surrendered it, and finally ready. Don't rush this. Don't dismiss it. This is not a coincidence. This is divine alignment. Heaven is marking this season as the place where your identity was reawakened, where your ears opened again, where your prayers got dangerous again, where you didn't just listen, you responded. It is written in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 19, verse 12, and after the fire came a gentle whisper. Because when chosen ones awaken, all of hell trembles. Not because of who they are, but because of who is in them, because of the light they carry, because of the sound they release, because of the authority they remember. And when you walk in that authority, atmospheres shift, chains break, generational curses lose their grip. You don't even have to speak loud. Your presence becomes warfare. You become living proof that darkness can't bury destiny. That purpose, once awakened, becomes unstoppable. And make no mistake, you are remembering. You're remembering who you were before the heartbreak, before the confusion, before the delay. You're remembering the version of you that believed boldly, worshipped freely, and prayed with fire. The version that never needed a platform to feel powerful, just the presence of God. That version of you isn't gone. It's resurrecting, because heaven never stopped calling your name. You are standing at a threshold, not a physical one, but a spiritual edge. You can feel it. Something inside you knows this is not a normal season. It's not just transition. It's not just maturity. It's transformation. Something is trying to break through you, and something is trying to stop it. You felt the resistance. You felt the fog, the heaviness, the odd sense of warfare surrounding simple decisions. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. The closer you get to breakthrough, the louder the opposition becomes. The more pressure you feel, the more certain you can be you're carrying something hell is terrified of. Don't ignore the tension. The restlessness you feel isn't rebellion, it's revelation. It's God awakening you to the weight of your assignment. But here's the danger. The moment just before transformation always comes with a test. And not the kind that's obvious. This test isn't loud. It's subtle. It sounds like delay. It looks like discouragement. It moves like numbness. It speaks in whispers. Just go back. Just settle. Just do what's easy. And that's what the enemy wants most. Not to destroy you, but to distract you. To convince you that this stirring in your spirit is just emotion, that you're too broken, too inconsistent, too late to carry what God has put inside you. But listen closely. Chosen one, you are not too late. You are right on time. You are in the final wrestle between who you were and who you're becoming. And the old version of you is putting up a fight. It's trying to make one last case for comfort, one last plea for silence, one final argument for staying small. But it's too late. You've seen too much, felt too much, grown too much. You can't unknow what heaven has shown you. And now it's time to choose, because heaven has brought you to this moment for a decision, not an emotional one, but a spiritual one. This is your line in the sand. Will you keep circling the same patterns? Will you keep dimming your light for the comfort of others? Will you keep allowing fear to delay your obedience? Or will you step out, even if you're scared, even if you're unsure, even if you're shaking? Will you step forward into what God has called you to carry? Because the world is not waiting for perfect people. It's groaning for obedient ones. People who move with heaven, even when hell screams. People who walk through fire and still carry the fragrance of worship. People like you, people who say, "Here I am. Lord, use me." And maybe you don't feel ready. Maybe you still feel raw, flawed, too human. But look again. You've endured things that would have destroyed others. You've healed from wounds that no one saw. You've worshipped through warfare and kept your heart soft when it would have been easier to shut down. You are ready. Not because you've arrived, but because you've surrendered. God doesn't use the most polished. He uses the most willing. And your willingness, even in your weariness, is what heaven is responding to now. It was proclaimed in the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 10. Let the weak say, "I am strong." Abide. Say it with trembling. Say it with tears. Say it with faith the size of a mustard seed. But say it, because there's power in your agreement. When your voice aligns with God's promise, all of hell's resistance loses authority. Right now, type in the comments, "I choose obedience." Say it aloud. Write it publicly. Let it be your anchor in this moment. Not because it's a ritual, but because it's a declaration. Because when you speak it, you interrupt the assignment of delay. You shift the atmosphere around your life. You break the agreement with fear and make a covenant with destiny. I choose obedience. Even when it costs me. Even when no one claps for it. Even when it leads to the unknown. Because obedience is never about understanding. It's about trust. And right now, the eyes of heaven are on you. Not to shame you. Not to test your performance. But to empower your yes. Because what's on the other side of your obedience is freedom, breakthrough, oil, glory, And you'll look back at this moment, this exact moment, and know this is where everything started to shift. So speak it. Say it with fire. Say it with surrender. Say it for your future. Say it for your family. Say it for the generation watching your life. I choose obedience. No. Look at you. You've survived what others didn't. You've walked through valleys that should have buried you. There were moments, dark ones, when even you thought it was over. Nights where you felt invisible to the world. And even worse, unheard by heaven. Days where getting out of bed felt like spiritual warfare. Conversations you faked your way through. Smiles that covered up silent screams. And yet you're still here, not just breathing, not just existing. You're rising. Slowly. Maybe. Quietly. Perhaps. But undeniably. What didn't kill you didn't just leave you alive. It left you wiser, stronger, sharper, and more surrendered than ever before. People see your strength, but they don't know your story. They admire the light, but never saw the crushing. But heaven saw everything. Every invisible wound. Every battle in your mind. Every whispered prayer through clenched teeth. God saw it all, and He never forgot. You've survived, not just life. You've survived yourself. The parts of you that wanted to give up. The thoughts that told you it was too late. The spiritual numbness that tried to settle in and make you cold. You've fought through storms within and without. And that fight, it wasn't weakness. It was evidence. Evidence that you're chosen. Because if you weren't chosen, hell wouldn't have worked so hard to bury you in silence. Chosen ones carry weight. And that weight attracts warfare. The deeper your calling, the darker the opposition. The more you're meant to carry, the more you'll be crushed. And you've been crushed, but never destroyed. Pressed, but never abandoned. There is something indestructible in you. A divine thread, heaven stitched into your soul before time began. And that's why you're still standing. And it's time the world saw that for what it truly is. Proof that God is real. You, standing here now, stronger after the fire. Still soft after the betrayal. Still open after the heartbreak. You are a living testimony. You don't need to be louder. You just need to be faithful, because your story is already shaking something in the spirit. And even now, as you read this, God is breathing on your life again. New wind, fresh fire, clarity that breaks confusion, restoration where identity was shattered. The enemy tried to name you by your wounds, but God is renaming you by your calling. You are not the depressed one. You are not the anxious one. You are not the failure. You are not the outcast. You are not the forgotten. You are a vessel, a weapon, a voice, a light, a threat to darkness. We find in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." This is your arise moment. Not when everything is perfect. Not when the pain is fully gone. Not when you have all the answers. No, now, while the oil is still fresh from the crushing, while your hands still tremble but are raised anyway, while your heart still aches but is open to be used. You're not late. You're right on time for what heaven is releasing. And make no mistake, God is releasing something through you. A sound, a message, a movement. You don't need a title or a platform. All you need is a yielded heart and a yes. Now, You've already said yes by surviving, by staying, by refusing to curse the season that tried to end you, and now that yes is about to turn into fruit, the kind that will feed others, the kind that will shift atmospheres, the kind that will make demons tremble. But don't keep this to yourself. If this word found you, if it stirred something real, something deep, something that confirmed what your spirit has been sensing, share it. Not for numbers, for souls. There's someone out there on the edge of giving up, still wondering if they're alone in their pain. Let them know they're not. Like this message, if it spoke to the parts of you no one sees, subscribe if you haven't already, because this is more than content. This is confirmation. And what's coming next is going to speak even deeper. Share it, because your obedience to share could be someone else's divine interruption. You are not weak. You are not done. You are the proof that chosen ones don't break, they become. So hold your head up, not in pride, but in reverence. You carry light. You carry power. And your survival is the beginning of a supernatural legacy. There's a reason the room shifts when you walk in. It's not your clothes, not your tone, not your reputation. It's the spirit you carry, the weight you hold, the invisible atmosphere that surrounds you because of everything you've endured and everything you refused to bow to. It's the authority born from pain. It's the presence of God resting quietly on a yielded soul. You've noticed it, haven't you? People get uncomfortable. Some are drawn to you without knowing why. Others avoid you without explanation. That's not about you being too much. It's about what's on you. You carry light, and light exposes things. You don't even have to speak. Your presence interrupts darkness. Your stillness convicts where chaos has been welcomed. Your kindness shines in rooms where cold hearts are the norm. And it's not because you're trying to make a statement. It's because you've been marked. Marked by obedience. Marked by surrender. Marked by fire. And that kind of mark doesn't just stay in your private life. It spills over. It enters the workplace, the family dynamic, the ministry, the street. It goes where you go. Because God doesn't separate the sacred from the ordinary when it comes to the lives of the chosen. When you walk with Him, everything becomes sacred. But that influence, it comes with responsibility. You've felt it. The weight. The internal pressure to walk upright, even when no one is watching. The conviction that catches you before you speak the wrong word. The hesitation before making a decision. Because you know your steps are no longer your own. You've grown sensitive to the Spirit. Sensitive to what grieves God. Sensitive to what quenches the fire you fought so hard to keep alive. And that sensitivity, that's not weakness. That's not being too deep. That's holiness. And it's rare. We live in a world where numbness is normal, where spiritual dullness is common. But you're different. You feel things before they manifest. You discern things before they're explained. You catch atmospheres before others even notice they've shifted. Because you walk with something, and more importantly, you walk in something. That something is the presence of God, and it rests on those who choose purity over popularity, obedience over opportunity, holiness over hype. This is what makes you dangerous to the enemy. Not because you scream louder, not because you're always bold, but because you carry a light that cannot be dimmed, a light that was forged in private surrender, a light that didn't come cheap, a light you had to fight to keep. And that's why you can't go back. not because of guilt, but because you've come too far. You've tasted too much of God's presence to settle for casual Christianity. You've seen too much to play it safe. You've carried too much to pretend like you're not marked. This isn't pride. It's recognition. Recognition of the cost. Recognition of the calling. Recognition that you're not like the rest. And that's not rejection. It's assignment. It is written in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. You cannot be hidden, not because you crave attention, but because light always finds a way to shine through darkness. And when God puts his hand on someone, it's not to build a brand, it's to break chains. You cannot be hidden, not because you crave attention, but because light always finds a way to shine through darkness. And when God puts his hand on someone, it's not to build a brand, it's to break chains. You weren't anointed to be noticed. You were anointed to shift rooms, to heal what's broken, to carry his glory into places others avoid. That's why you keep being sent into difficult spaces, because you carry answers hidden inside obedience. And that's what you're doing with every step, every prayer, every act of silent obedience. You're breaking generational cycles. You're shifting atmospheres. You're restoring places others thought were beyond repair. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've said, God, use me even in my weakness. And that prayer, more than talent, more than strategy, more than intellect, is what makes you glow in the spirit realm. So when people look at you and say, there's something different about you, they're right. It's not attitude. It's not personality. It's anointing. It's the fire of God burning behind your eyes. It's the residue of warfare and worship. It's the radiance of a heart that's still tender after all it's been through. You didn't just survive. You've become a carrier of heaven's weight. You've become a walking interruption to darkness. And nothing, no lie, no past, no fear can take that away. There is a fire stirring inside of you, and it's not random. This isn't emotion. This isn't adrenaline. This is activation. Something ancient, something eternal, something sacred is being stirred awake. It's not just energy, it's assignment. For years, you've carried things that didn't make sense. The ache for more, the holy discontent, the frustration with average, the inability to settle for surface-level faith. You've tried to quiet it. You've tried to explain it away. But it never left. And now you know why. Because it was never just emotion. It was the groaning of the Spirit inside of you, waiting for permission to rise. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life where God doesn't just comfort you, He calls you. He calls you out of hiding. He calls you out of hesitation. He calls you out of excuses. And He says, now, go. And when that moment comes, it doesn't feel soft. It doesn't feel safe. It feels sharp, sudden, unignorable. Like heaven itself is placing fire in your bones that cannot be silenced. You're in that moment now. You've crossed the line from casual to called, from curious to convicted, from believing to burning. There is no going back. Because the moment you say yes, all of heaven leans in. The angels take their positions. The atmosphere begins to shift. And while the world may not see it, the spirit realm knows you've just activated your next level. And that's exactly what you've done. Your mind may still wrestle. Your emotions may still be catching up. but your spirit knows you've moved. Something inside you has clicked into place, and now the fire can't be stopped. That fire is not just for you. It's for the broken. It's for the next generation. It's for the dark rooms you will enter and shift. It's for the captives who need the sound in your voice and the oil on your life. But that fire must be guarded, because now that it's been lit, the enemy will come with strategy, not full-blown destruction, but subtle seduction, distractions, delays, old temptations disguised as comfort, emotional chaos masked as processing, anything to cool the flame. Don't fall for it. You didn't come this far to trade fire for convenience. You've been entrusted with a sacred spark. What's inside you isn't hype. It's not borrowed. It's not copied. It's yours, and you must protect it at all costs. Fan the flame. Feed the fire. Speak in tongues. Soak in His presence. Stay sensitive, and above all, stay obedient. Because this fire you carry, it's not about noise. It's not about platforms. It's about power. The kind of power that makes demons scatter and atmospheres tremble. The kind of power that flows from purity, not performance. It is written in the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 1, verse 6. For this reason I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you. Yes, it's in you. Not in a building, not in a preacher, not in a system. In you. This flame didn't come from emotion. It came from encounter, and what comes from encounter must be stewarded like treasure. It's more than a feeling. It's a mantle, a calling, a holy responsibility, and the world needs what you carry. This generation is dying for truth, starving for authenticity, desperate for real encounters with God. And you, chosen one, are being sent into that hunger, not with answers, but with presence. You carry the aroma of the secret place, the evidence of a life touched by fire. When you speak, something shifts. When you pray, something breaks. When you show up, heaven comes with you. You may not feel like much, but fire doesn't need permission to burn. It only needs fuel, and your obedience is the fuel. Your hunger is the fuel. Your willingness to look crazy, sound different, and walk alone. If you have to, that's what heaven breathes on. Right now, as a prophetic act, type the number 555 the comments. This isn't superstition. This is alignment. 555 represents divine grace for movement and forward progress. It means you've been released. Now walk in it. Okay. When you comment 555, you're not just agreeing with this message, you're marking the moment. You're planting a flag in the spirit. You're saying, I'm not who I was. I'm burning now. I've been activated. Okay, because you have. And nothing will be the same. There is fire on your life. And it's not fading, it's only getting started. You're not crazy. That burden you've been carrying, the urgency that won't let you rest, the unexplainable pull towards something deeper, something higher, it's not your imagination, it's confirmation. You are being called out of the ordinary, and the world doesn't understand people like you. That's why you've been misunderstood. That's why you've always felt a little off. Even in rooms where you should have fit in. You've been in churches and felt disconnected, in conversations and felt unseen, in circles and still felt alone. And for a long time, you questioned yourself. You wondered if something was wrong with you, if you were too intense, too sensitive, too serious, too spiritual. But the truth is, you've been carrying something they weren't called to understand. Not everyone can recognize the weight of divine assignment. Not everyone hears what you hear. Not everyone sees what you see. And that's okay. Because when God marks you, it doesn't come with a crowd. It often starts with isolation. You've walked through some deep internal valleys, places where no one could go with you. You've wrestled with your own thoughts, your own identity, your own obedience. And through it all, something kept stirring a flame you couldn't extinguish. A conviction that wouldn't leave. A sound that wouldn't stop ringing in your soul. That wasn't instability. That was awakening. You were being called, not cursed. You were being stirred, not broken. You were being separated, not rejected. Because what God is birthing through, you couldn't survive in shallow soil. It couldn't be nurtured in noisy rooms. He had to pull you away, to pull something out of you. That's why you felt like you're living between dimensions, not quite where you were, but not yet where you're going. Walking through your day, functioning in the natural, but aware, always aware that something spiritual is happening inside you. You've been pregnant with purpose, and the closer you get to delivery, the more uncomfortable everything becomes. Nothing satisfies. Nothing numbs it. Nothing replaces the cry of your spirit to be fully aligned with God's plan. And yes, it feels strange. It feels lonely. It even feels scary. But it's not insanity, it's identity waking up. You're remembering who you are, who you've always been, who God said you were before the world tried to rename you. And that's not an easy process. When your calling begins to rise, it disturbs everything. Habits, relationships, environments. Your appetite changes. Your conversations shift. You start craving truth over comfort, presence over popularity, depth over distraction. You don't want to play church. You don't want to perform. You want God. You want clarity. You want power. You want what's real. Because something inside you refuses to settle for imitation. Something inside you is allergic to empty noise. You weren't built for religion. You were built for revelation. Not for tradition, but for transformation. And that makes you dangerous. Because once a chosen one starts to remember, hell starts to panic. Because now, your eyes are opening, your ears are hearing, your spirit is awakening, and you're starting to move differently. You're watching how you spend your time. You're guarding your atmosphere. You're checking your motives. You're walking away from anything that drains the anointing you fought so hard to protect. Because you've realized something sacred. You are not your own. You were bought with a price. You were claimed by heaven. And the call on your life isn't casual. It's consecrated. It is written in the book of John, chapter 15, verse 16. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. You were chosen, not randomly, not reluctantly, but deliberately. God looked at your story, your weakness, your trauma, your past, and still said, yes, that one. I can use that one. And now, everything is aligning. What didn't make sense before is starting to do. The wilderness begins to feel like preparation. The silence begins to feel like sharpening. The battles begin to feel like boot camp for something far bigger than survival, for revival. No, you're not crazy. You're called. You're marked. You're becoming exactly who heaven wrote you to be. And the longer you walk in that truth, the louder heaven will echo it through your life. Your past may have shaped you, but your calling defines you. Everything in you is aligning with divine design, and nothing will stop it now. So, don't shrink back. Don't second-guess the weight you feel. Don't apologize for the way you carry God. You're not too much. You're just finally walking in what you were born for. There's a reason your life has never felt normal. You've tried to fit in. You've tried to blend. You've even tried to water yourself down so others would be more comfortable around you. But no matter how hard you tried, something always resisted. That quiet sense of not belonging, that inner tension, that whisper that kept reminding you, you're not like them, because you were never meant to be. You've been set apart, not for status, not for fame, but for something holy. And holiness has a cost. It costs comfort. It costs approval. It costs proximity to people who refuse to grow. But you felt the pull, haven't you? The call away from casual conversations, the restlessness that follows you into shallow environments, the longing for something deeper, something real, something eternal. That longing isn't emptiness, it's evidence. It proves your identity. It proves your sensitivity. It proves that you've been awakened. And once you've been awakened to divine purpose, you can never unsee it again. Everything begins to shift. The things you used to laugh at now disturb your spirit. The entertainment that once numbed you now feels toxic. The people who used to be close now feel distant, not because they've changed, but because you have. Because spiritual growth will always cause friction with environments that were built around your old identity. That's why this journey feels lonely sometimes. God is stripping away the unnecessary, trimming the dead branches, severing the attachments that were draining your oil, not out of cruelty, but out of love, because He knows what's coming. He knows what you're carrying, and He refuses to let you drag old weight into a new season. This is the season of separation, and it hurts, because we want to bring everyone with us. We want to be understood. We want to explain our process to people who only know the version of us we were forced to outgrow. But not everyone can follow you into the fire. Not everyone can handle who you're becoming. Some people were assigned to your past, but not your destiny. And that's okay. Your loyalty to God has to outweigh your loyalty to your history. The call on your life requires obedience, even when it means walking alone, because separation always precedes elevation. Before Jesus stepped into power, He was led into the wilderness. Before Joseph wore the crown, he sat in a prison. Before David held the throne, he was hidden in caves. The pattern hasn't changed. Every chosen one must endure the tension between promise and preparation. That's where you are right now. You've received glimpses, flashes, moments where heaven confirms, yes, this is real. Yes, you're called. Yes, the anointing is upon you, but you've also faced silence. You've lived through spiritual droughts, where your prayers felt like echoes and your worship felt empty. Still, you didn't walk away. Still, you remained. And that's what God honors, not performance, but perseverance. It is written in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. Enderic, the test wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to prove you. And you passed not because you were perfect, but because you were faithful, because you stayed when walking away seemed easier, because you worshipped when there was no music, because you believed, even when your heart was shattered. You've been in the furnace, and now, what's emerging is pure gold. So don't resist the separation. Don't mourn what God has removed. He only cuts what hinders growth. He only removes what can't hold the weight of your assignment. And you're not being stripped to leave you empty. You're being emptied so He can fill you completely. This is the preparation for your next level. A level that requires clarity, maturity, purity, and obedience. A level that requires you to walk in rooms where you are the answer to prayers others haven't even prayed yet. A level where you can't afford distraction or deception. A level where your presence alone will provoke atmospheres to shift. And for that, God must finish the pruning, the separation, the refining. Because what's coming isn't light, it's glory. And glory can't rest on what's still entangled with compromise. So let God finish what He started. Let Him pull away what no longer fits. Let Him elevate you without explanation. The ones who need to understand will. The ones who were never meant to come won't. And that's not a loss. That's alignment. You are being positioned, purified, protected. Because you're not just called to carry this anointing, you're called to sustain it. This is a divine battle, not a metaphor, not poetic language, a real war raging in the spirit, targeting your identity, your mind, your obedience, your anointing. You weren't born into a playground. You were born into a battlefield. And the reason it's been so intense, the reason the attacks haven't let up, the reason the resistance has felt unbearable at times, it's because of what you carry. You're not just a believer, you're a threat. Not because of your personality, not because of your past, but because of your purpose. And hell has known from the beginning what you're just starting to remember, that when you step fully into who God created you to be, you will cause destruction to darkness. That's why the battles began early. That's why cycles kept repeating. That's why you were attacked in childhood, misunderstood in friendships, targeted in silence. Because when God chooses someone, the enemy assigns pressure. He knows he can't steal the calling, so he tries to steal your confidence. He can't cancel your anointing, so he tries to confuse your identity. But now the veil is lifting. Now the noise is clearing. And now you can see it for what it's always been, a spiritual war. And the moment you recognize it as war, everything changes. You stop blaming yourself for attacks you didn't initiate. You stop seeing trials as punishments and start seeing them as training. You stop feeling like a victim and rise like a warrior. Because chosen ones don't run from fire, they walk through it and come out glowing. And you, chosen one, are glowing now. It may not look like it from the outside. You may still feel tired. You may still feel stretched. But in the spirit, you're on fire. There's a sound being released from your life now. A sound that says, I've been through too much to stay silent. I've survived too much to shrink back. The enemy knows he's running out of time. That's why the attacks have intensified. That's why the voices of shame, fear, and weariness have grown louder. but they're only loud because they're losing power. You've stepped into revelation, and revelation always gives birth to authority. The more you see, the more you stand, the more you stand, the more you shake what once held you, the more you shake it, the more others begin to rise with you. This is bigger than you. Your obedience is a seed for someone else's freedom. Your deliverance becomes the blueprint for another warrior. Your voice becomes the echo of hope someone else didn't know they needed. This is war, but we don't fight like the world fights. We war with truth. We war with worship. We war with holiness. We war with authority born from the presence of God. The Word of God declares in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, authorities, and spiritual forces of evil." You're not just in a season, you're in a showdown, and you will not lose, because you were made for this, trained for this, anointed for this, chosen for this. But hear this carefully. In this season of battle, you cannot fight passively. This isn't the time for silence. This is the time to stand, to speak, to move in faith, to worship when it hurts, to obey when it costs, to fight even when it's quiet. You may feel like giving up, but don't. You may feel overlooked, but you're seen by heaven. You may feel outnumbered, but you're surrounded by angels. You may feel tired, but your strength comes from the Spirit of the living God. Right now, make a prophetic move. Don't scroll past this. Type in the comments, "I choose my crown." Lord, not because you're trying to be noticed, but because you're stepping into agreement. Because there's a crown with your name on it. One you've fought for. One you've wept for. One the enemy tried to keep from you. When you say, "I choose my crown," you're not just typing a phrase, you're choosing alignment. You're saying, "I will not shrink. I will not quit. I will not deny who God says I am." Let the atmosphere around you hear it. Let every demon that's tried to silence you witness it. Let heaven record it. You chose your crown. And if this message pierced your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Like this word, if it confirmed something you've been carrying in silence, share it with someone you love, someone who needs to remember they're chosen too. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Not for hype, but to stay connected to what heaven is speaking in real time. You were never meant to walk this road alone. This is more than a moment, it's a marching order. Your name is being called. Your armor is ready. Your crown is waiting. You are not under attack because you're weak. You're under attack because you're anointed. Now rise. Pick up your weapon. Pick up your voice. Pick up your crown. There is still mercy on your life. You may have wandered. You may have fallen. You may have doubted, delayed, resisted, and even rebelled. But hear this truth clearly. The door is not shut. You're still breathing. Your heart is still beating. Your spirit still responds when truth is spoken. That alone is proof. Heaven hasn't given up on you. The fact that conviction still reaches you means grace is still moving toward you. And if mercy is still available, that means your story is not over. This is not the time to let shame win. This is not the moment to stay down. Because what you think disqualifies you is often the very thing God uses to mark you. You've had seasons of silence, where you felt numb and disconnected from the presence of God. You've had stretches of compromise, little decisions, small steps off course that grew into patterns. You've had nights where you told God, "I'm done trying," but somehow, deep down, you kept whispering, "But don't let go of me." And he didn't. Even in rebellion, he preserved you. Even in apathy, he protected you. Even when you weren't looking for him, he was still watching over you. That's not weakness, that's covenant. Because you weren't just chosen when you were strong, you were chosen when you were still in chains. God didn't wait for you to clean yourself up to call your name. He called you while the dust was still on your feet. He called you when you were broken, messy, unfinished. He called you anyway. And if he called you knowing all that, then who are you to think that your mistake cancelled his mission? The enemy is a liar. He wants you to believe that you've missed your moment, that the detours disqualified you, that the delay was denial. But God's purpose doesn't expire, it matures. What looked like wasted years were actually years of preparation. The wilderness wasn't punishment, it was preservation. God was keeping you from platforms that would have crushed you. He was hiding you from stages you weren't yet ready to sustain. And now, as your heart returns to him, you'll begin to see how even the darkest seasons were woven into your destiny. There's a reason you still feel drawn, a reason the sound of his voice still breaks you, a reason the tears return when no one's watching. It's because you've always belonged to him. The world tried to rename you. The enemy tried to redefine you. Trauma tried to reshape you. But the original design never changed. Beneath the pain, beneath the compromise, beneath the confusion, you are still his. And he's still calling, not to shame you, not to guilt you, but to restore you. It is written in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, the hopper, the destroyer, and the cutter, my great army. It is written in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. He doesn't just forgive, he restores, he rebuilds, he redeems time. The moments you thought were lost forever, the dreams you buried, the gifts you neglected, God can bring them back to life. But you have to come out of hiding. You have to let him heal the places you stopped talking about. You have to release the guilt that keeps rehearsing your failures. He's not asking for perfection. He's asking for your heart. Return. Not in fear, but in faith. Because you're not crawling back to a judge. You're running home to a father. And he's not angry, he's ready. Ready to clothe you in righteousness. Ready to put a ring on your finger. Ready to anoint your head with fresh oil. You thought you were disqualified, but you're actually positioned. You thought the fire had gone out, but he was only letting it burn low to purify it. What's coming next is not recycled religion, it's revival. Starting in you. Not emotional hype, not performance. Real revival, real repentance, real restoration. It's not too late. You're not too far. He hasn't changed his mind. This is the mercy of God reaching into your moment and pulling you back to purpose. He didn't expose you. He protected you. He didn't cancel you. He covered you. And now he's calling you again, not to punish, but to position. You're not coming back empty-handed. You're coming back with fire, with revelation, with clarity, with gratitude, with the scars that prove grace still wins. And when he restores you, the evidence will be undeniable. People won't recognize you, but they'll feel him on you. Because restoration doesn't just fix you, it marks you. You've been through the fire, and you've come out different. Not burned, not broken, refined. You no longer walk like the version of yourself that was unsure, apologetics, and easily shaken. You've tasted the lowest places and discovered the unshakable truth. You are still standing. And that changes everything. When you've survived what was meant to take you out, you stop asking for permission to be who you are. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop apologizing for your anointing, your discernment, your depth, because now you know you didn't call yourself. God did. You are not here by accident. You are not here because you got lucky. You are not here because people chose you. You are here because heaven did. And when heaven chooses, there's nothing man can do to reverse it. It doesn't matter who overlooked you. It doesn't matter who walked away. It doesn't matter who doubted you, rejected you, misunderstood you, because God never took his eyes off you. Not once. He watched you wrestle. He watched you suffer in silence. He watched you lay awake at night, asking, why? Why this calling? Why this weight? Why this pain? And he never answered you with an explanation. He answered you with preservation. You were kept. When you didn't know how to pray, you were kept. When you didn't want to live, you were kept. When you almost gave up on him, he never gave up on you. You weren't just being held together by willpower, you were being held together by the hand of God. And now, you carry the evidence, not in your perfection, not in your appearance, but in your spirit, in your eyes, in your authority. Because once you've walked through fire and still chosen obedience, you don't walk back the same. You walk with oil, the kind of oil that only comes from crushing, the kind of oil that can't be learned, mimicked, or bought, the kind of oil that demons recognize, even when people don't. That's what's on you now. And you've started to notice, haven't you? The room gets quiet when you enter. The conversation shifts when your presence shows up. The air gets heavy when you start to speak. You're not imagining that. You're not being prideful. You're carrying weight, glory, authority, heaven's fingerprint on a life that refused to die in the dark. What you've walked through has made you dangerous, not because you're flawless, but because you're empty of self and full of God. And that's exactly what he needs in this hour. Not more platforms, not more polished performers, not more predictable routines. He needs carriers, carriers of fire, carriers of truth, carriers of heaven's agenda. And you, chosen one, you are one of them. That doesn't mean your life will be easy. In fact, it may get harder. Greater light attracts greater warfare. Deeper revelation brings deeper resistance. But now you know how to stand. Now you know who you are. Now you know how to war from a place of victory. Not victimhood, because you're not fighting for your identity anymore. You're fighting from it. It is written in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 30, and those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified. None. Did you catch that? Predestined, called, justified, glorified. That's the divine process you've been walking through. That's the journey of the chosen ones. And now you've come through the fire, not just refined, but commissioned. You carry a word that needs to be spoken, You carry a presence that disrupts atmospheres. You carry a light that refuses to be hidden. Don't let fear make you forget who you are. Don't let comfort make you shrink back. Don't let delay make you question the call. The same God who kept you in the fire is now sending you out with power, not because you're ready, but because you're willing. You've been prepared for such a time as this. Sorrise. Walk boldly. Speak with fire. Because the time for hiding is over. The time for second-guessing is over. The time for looking back is over. You're not who you used to be. You're not even who you were at the beginning of this message. You are refined. You are anointed. You are God's chosen one. And the world needs what you carry now. Chosen one. If you've made it this far, that alone says something powerful. It means your spirit is hungry. It means your soul recognizes truth. It means you didn't just stumble onto this message, you were summoned. Heaven pulled you in because this word had your name on it. You are not average. You are not ordinary. You are marked, refined, and commissioned for this hour. Everything you've been through, it wasn't for nothing. It built the strength you now carry. It cultivated the wisdom, the discernment, and the fire that cannot be stolen. God has not only preserved you, He has positioned you. You're not just waking up, you're being launched. This isn't the end of a message. It's the beginning of movement. The world needs your voice, your prayers, your obedience. The shift you feel inside right now, that's your spirit responding to purpose. So don't let this word sit in silence. Let it echo. If this message stirred you, comment below. Let your agreement be seen in the atmosphere. Like this message, if it confirmed what God has already been whispering to your spirit, share it with someone who's been fighting in silence, someone who doesn't even know they're chosen yet. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Stay connected to what heaven is speaking, because there's more, so much more. You are not alone. You are part of a rising remnant. You are a torchbearer. You are chosen, and you are just getting started. Welcome to the front lines. Warrior, now go light the world.